Happy Manager is a game from Tamsoft and D3 Publisher, initially billed as a VR dating sim for the PlayStation VR. In it, you play the manager of a small apartment building filled with 3 cute girls who you can date. It certainly sounded promising, but it seemed to vanish off the face of the planet for a year, only to come back with VR removed and a promise to patch it back in later in a limited capacity. Which, to anyone following these types of games knows, that usually means a model viewer patched in a year later, like with Dead or Alive Extreme 3 and Senran Kagura Peach Beach Splash. However, Happy Manager managed to get VR support patched in only 2 months down the road. Unfortunately, the devs have been exceedingly vague about what the VR support even is, just saying it has been added in for certain modes and features, and to check the online manual, which is equally vague even if you do know Japanese, as my friend Linear pointed out. I searched high and low for answers, but found nothing. Near as I could tell, it sounded like you could play the whole game in VR, minus certain power-ups. So I managed to find a used copy on eBay for $60. The game usually runs 7,500 yen. Japanese game prices are nuts right now. I gave it a look, and after hours of searching, what we found was a model viewer and an event viewer. To access this, when you're in your room relaxing, press circle until a menu with 8 options comes up. Turn on your PSVR if you haven't already, choose the one with the camera, and this is Memories mode. It will then ask you if you want to view it in VR. Select yes, and there you go. You can then choose from a model viewer that lets you choose poses, hairstyles, facial expressions, and locations to view the girls in, or the ability to replay certain scenes and events complete with interaction in VR. Which then reveals that this whole game could have been played in VR. Every girl can be viewed in every location and interacted with without any sort of frame rate drops or hiccups, even on a vanilla PS4. So why was it removed? Well, it would seem that certain power-ups, events, and outfits are not allowed to be viewed in VR, namely undressing scenes and shower scenes and the like, as well as the ability to view the girls in their underwear. All of these are viewable outside of VR, but inside VR, you cannot select them. This seems to hint at Sony having rules in place preventing too lewd of content being viewable in VR. And considering the very nature of Happy Manager, I think we can safely say that this was something Sony put in place halfway through development. This is also not the first time this has happened, as Dead or Alive Extreme 3's VR mode originally let you poke the girls, but the final version does not let you interact with the girls at all. Now, Galgun VR's lack of a PSVR release comes off as all the more suspicious, which sucks because rail shooters are awesome in VR, and Galgun is so much better with proper light gun controls. This is a crying shame, because Happy Manager is a very VR-centric game, whose interface becomes a clunky mess outside of VR. Inside VR, the sense of presence from the girls is incredible, and even better than Summer Lesson. I have no qualms with saying that Happy Manager would have been a better game than Summer Lesson if it could have been played in VR. But it can't, and without it, the game is just a mess. I know someone is going to say, if it's not good outside of VR, why would it be good inside VR? Which I get. But when the entire design, interface, and concept are built around VR, well, think of it like a light gun game without a light gun. Ever play Time Crisis with a gamepad? Imagine if that was the only way to play because light gun support got cut at the last minute. Wouldn't be as good of a game, right? That's what happened to Happy Manager. Having said that, since 90% of the game can be viewed in VR, there's a chance that maybe Tamsoft will patch in the ability to play the game in VR and just block select scenes or switch to 2D for them. Probably switch to 2D because too many vital scenes, like the part where you try to shoot cartoon bugs off a girl with Hadokens, are not allowed in VR. But alas, it's probably too much work for a game which already failed because the entire point of the game, being a VR dating sim, was removed. Judging by the fact that the bug scene is blocked and what happened to DOA X3's VR mode, I think it's safe to say Sony has implemented a no-touching policy at the very least. Which, unfortunately and ironically, means that you can molest unmolested, as virtual girls are not allowed to react to being touched. Thanks to Sony's policies, these virtual women literally can't say no. See, Polygon? I can melodramatically exaggerate things, too. Now, to be clear, we don't actually have any confirmation that Sony is enforcing censorious rules onto their PSVR releases. Sony has not come out and said this, as they know darn well what a debacle that would be. And since the video game industry is a quagmire of endless non-disclosure agreements, we haven't really heard anything from devs either. But just look at Happy Manager, a game designed for VR, that works in VR, but has had VR removed and then gimped. Sure, you could argue that it's because of bugs and glitches in the VR mode, but if that were it, then why would the game specifically block lewd scenes and outfits? Couple that with DOA X3's downgraded VR mode and the lack of a PSVR release of Galgun VR, and the fact that they removed the petting from the PSVR version of Million Arthur, I just remembered that, and it all becomes just too suspicious. I feel bad for everyone involved. The developers who had to cannibalize their own game in order to release it, resulting in worse sales. The consumers who paid 7,500 yen for a game that is almost good, but isn't because of the lack of VR. The future devs who are not allowed to make games of this nature on the PSVR platform. VR itself, which will have a harder time in Japan because of the lack of games like this being allowed on PSVR, and lewd gamers like myself whose deciding factor on dropping $500 on the PSVR was games like Dead or Alive Extreme 3, Senran Kagura, Peach Beach Splash, and Happy Manager, all promising a VR waifu experience only to be stuck with model viewers. Great. Thanks. It's a good thing the PSVR has other good games on it, or I'd be really pissed instead of just very pissed. Anyway, I hope that saved you $75. See ya!